I had a really nice evening at camp last night. Instead of camping down in the riparian zone of Halls Creek, as is typical, I think, for this trip, I actually climbed up on the slick rock of the water pocket fold and just cowboy camped. I didn't even set up my tent or anything because the weather was pretty mild, and I have my 20-degree Sierra Designs Nitro quilt, and so just stayed nice and comfortable all night long. The moon is a little over half full still, so there's quite a bit of light. Like I could look up and see everything that was around me well enough. So the plan for today is to do the Halls Narrows loop. I have been warned several times by people I've encountered that I should expect to swim today. I'm going to pack up all the things that I'm going to take with me for this day hike in a waterproof sack, stow everything else away here at camp for later. I might camp here again depending on how I feel, or I spotted a spot a couple miles out that looked kind of nice too, so if I want to do some more miles today and make the day out a shorter day, I might pick a different campsite. But anyway, I'm gonna get everything packed up and stow that stuff away, and then actually got to go down to Halls Creek and get some more water and start the hike for today. But my Sony camera is going to be staying safely with my camp gear because I cannot risk getting it soaked. So I will be vlogging this hike today on my iPhone, and then I'll return to you a little bit later. This is the swim. My heart is pounding. I'm so nervous. Okay, we'll see. All right, here it goes. Just finished the swim. I mean, it's cold, but for me it's not that bad, but I spent a lot of time in really cold conditions. It's not even the length of a residential swimming pool. It's not that far that you actually have to swim, and I just knew it was time to stop swimming when my knees hit the bottom because I was swimming doggy paddle or whatever, I don't know. Okay, it's pretty deep again. Let's see how we do. Ooh. Okay, we are up to my waist. I'm on my tippy toes. Like, so far, I'm staying really close to the edge here. So, so far I'm able to walk this part, but that last part, it was definitely not walkable for me. I'm 5'6". Okay. Wow, that was so much fun. So much fun. Oh my gosh, wow. That's fun. That's a lot of fun. This has been a really, really cool trip. Good morning from camp on day 3. I kind of lost track of you guys yesterday after I got out of the Narrows hike. I went back up to my campsite from the night prior and took an afternoon nap in the shade of a juniper tree. I think the temperatures were forecasted to reach 77 yesterday, which sounds quite nice, but I think I'm just very conditioned to the cold at this point, and yeah, the sun felt very strong. So it was kind of nice to just spend the afternoon resting in the shade, and then as the sun started to dip below the water pocket fold, I had all my stuff packed up and I started hiking out. This is an out and back hike, so when I was hiking in, I had noted a couple of places that seemed like reasonable campsites, and so I just kind of hiked until I couldn't see any longer, until it got too dark, and I set up camp at one of those sites that I had noticed, and I actually set up my tent in the dark. So it's looking a little worse for wear. Plus, when I set up, there was no wind at all, and then it started picking up wind a little bit overnight too. So, it held up fine. It's looking like a little bit of a mess. Plus, I've started to break down already. So I estimate I have about 3 hours of hiking to do this morning, and I'm going to get started on it early, just because the last 1.2 miles has 800 feet of elevation gain, and if today feels anything like it did yesterday, I don't want to be doing that in the midday sun. And between where I was yesterday and basically to my car, there is no water. Just think that it's wise to get an early start this morning. It's really beautiful. Yeah, that's it for right now. Let's get going. Hello there. I wrapped up that hike about a week ago. I have left Utah and I'm now in windy, sunny Southern California. But the day that I got out of the hike, I wrote up some notes for a debrief, and I want to share that with you because whether you're someone that's interested in doing a hike similar to that one or that exact hike, I have some tips and ideas that might be helpful for you to know. So that hike is a 22.4 mile lollipop loop that's moderately rated. So a lollipop loop kind of means that there's a stem of an out and back with a loop at the middle of the hike. The loop that's in the middle of that hike is the Narrows portion, which is what I did on day 2. A lot of the hiking on this trip is really easy, but there are some tougher points that bump it up from the easy to the moderate category. The initial descent and final climb of the hike is 800 feet over 1.2 miles, and it's exposed and somewhat technical. So generally speaking, a trail would be considered steep at about 500 feet per mile. So that's significantly steep at 800 feet at 1.2 miles. And then, like I said, there is just some exposure, and particularly if you're doing it while it was hot and it is very sun exposed, that could be very taxing for some people. Much of the hike through the broader canyon is in sandy areas that can be more taxing than usual on the stabilizing muscles. So that, combined with the numerous water crossings, mean that it would be a good idea for a lot of people to bring trekking poles with them on this hike. Another useful piece of gear would be gaiters. They'll prevent all that sand from coming down into your shoe. I totally intended to bring mine. Unfortunately, I had stowed away a few essential items: my gaiters, my battery bank, and the tripod for my cell phone in one particular cubby of my car, thinking there's no way I'll forget this stuff. And sure enough, I did forget all that stuff. So I was definitely a lot less comfortable on the hike than I would have been had I had those. Expect for your feet to get wet. If this is something that you have anxiety about, get comfortable with the idea of your feet getting wet. In my personal opinion, it is far better for you to be wearing proper footwear that gets wet than to change into something that's less technical, less capable piece of footwear. Any hiking shoes or hiking boots are designed with the idea that they will probably get wet in mind. So don't hesitate to just get right in there and get your feet wet. Maybe bring a lighter weight pair of shoes, sandals, or something like that for camp, so you can change out of your wet shoes at the end of the day, but your shoes will dry. Wear proper footwear. Don't expect that you're going to want to change your shoes every time you come to a water crossing. Like, just get in there, get your feet wet. You're going to be fine. This hike is definitely more of a route, and although there are some discernible trails, a lot of it will sort of be like off-trail navigating. You don't need to be an expert navigator to figure this one out. In fact, it could be an opportunity for someone that's in need of a confidence boost to test their ability to navigate, to route find, to kind of dip their toe into that, so to speak, because the idea is you just travel down canyon until you turn around and then you travel back up canyon. So it's not impossible to get lost because there are side canyons, and so it could happen, but it's also unlikely, especially since this particular canyon has two very discernible geographic features. There's Hall Mesa and Water Pocket Fold, and so you can always tell what direction you're headed in because the two geological features look vastly different from one another. You're going to be traveling in and out of washes and riverbeds and things like that, so there will be some route finding. There are a few cairns, but not really a whole lot, but there are some spots where you really do want to stick to the designated trail, or you can see paths that people have already used, especially to avoid the cryptobiotic soil crust. Unlike sand or slick rock, this soil crust is not a durable surface and is very easily damaged and vulnerable to footsteps. It's also really important to the immediate and larger ecosystem. It provides nutrients and moisture to plant life, and that plant life keeps the sand and soil grounded and keeps it from getting picked up and incorporated into part of the atmosphere and then deposited in other places. So I'm going to link a video in the description covering some leave no trace principles about the desert Southwest that I put together if you want to check that out for some more information on how to travel gently through these environments with minimal impact. Permits are required for overnight trips in this area, but they are free, non-quota, and available from the visitor center upon walk-up. The trailhead to this hike is very remote and is located in the southernmost portion of Capitol Reef National Park, like all the way down near Lake Powell. So not up as far north as you might imagine the park to be. Google Maps suggested for me from the visitor center to either go through Hanksville or go through Panguitch and basically take main roads all the way down towards Bullfrog, and then from there travel up to the trailhead. There is in fact a dirt road that is in very good condition that travels through Capitol Reef National Park, through some BLM land, and then re-enters the national park. That road is called the Nodam Bullfrog Road, and check with the visitor center and the rangers just to make sure the seasonal conditions of that road, are adequate. But based on my assessment, any passenger vehicle would be able to travel that road with no problem. However, the last 3 miles to the trailhead are 4x4 recommended. There is no way I would drive a passenger car up that road. It was sort of at the top of my comfort level in my Subaru Forester. So be advised of that. Use extreme caution for heat on this hike. Water sources are scarce and the route is largely sun exposed. At minimum, carry 1 liter per 4 miles, but depending on what your personal needs are and the heat of the day, it may be advisable to carry significantly more than that. But at minimum, you'll be starting day 1 with 2 liters of water if you assume that you're going to hike all the way to the mouth of the Narrows, where you can expect Halls Creek to have water. There are some opportunities for water between the trailhead and Halls Creek, well, your car, assuming your car has water in it, and Halls Creek Narrows. But I'll leave those for you to find out or for you to talk to the ranger about, because they are, seasonal. So the Halls Creek Narrows will have water in it year round, but the level of this water can vary pretty greatly. This area is prone to flash floods, so check the forecast prior to and during your trip. If it's raining, that's a really, really big warning, especially during monsoon season, which is typically July to September. Use caution, check the forecast. When I did this trip, there was a section of the hike that required swimming. That isn't always the case. Typically, this hike is done in 3 or 4 days. There are some campsites throughout the canyon before reaching the mouth of the Narrows, but those will pretty much all be dry camping. The most popular place to camp is at the mouth of the Narrows in the riparian zone. You will just want to look for an established campsite, so an area that's already clear, that you're not setting up camp or trudging over any vegetation or cryptobiotic soil. Do your best to camp 200 feet away from water, which is 70 large steps. That might be a little bit difficult, but do your best for that as well. I stayed for 2 nights, but if you wish, it is definitely possible to explore more and stay additional nights. You'll just have to talk to the ranger station about the possibility of doing that, because there are many side canyons and lots of different other areas that would be really fun to explore. I felt like the geography of this area was like something I had never seen before, and for me, having to swim through that portion of the Narrows was really just kind of fun and exciting and something that I hadn't experienced before. So it really just put the cherry on top for everything. But that's kind of it. Those are my reflections on how this trip went and any tips or tricks that I might have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you again on the next one. Take care.